Hi, welcome to Cardinal Rose Tarot. So I'm going to redo this now as an upload because I just tried to watch my live stream back and it looks like it's very glitchy for really no reason at all. But it needs to be a little bit better streamlined, so I'm going to re-record all of this as a live, or I'm sorry, as an upload. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to highlight the relationships that I figured out between Andrea Burkhart and the other attorneys in my state that I think are engaged in a cover-up. And I think it has to do with the Youth Detention Center contract that I was involved in exposing back in 2020. So I'm going to put all the links that I put in that live stream into this upload, link the live stream, and then link this to the, I'm just going to try to put it together so that they're both have the same information. Hopefully this will be a little bit more of a clean recording. So in the description box of this video are going to be all the same links that are in the live stream, because Andrea Burkhart has been involved in and knows attorneys that defended Chad Connors, who was the head of the detention center of the ICE contract in Cowlitz County. So for unknown reasons, even though Chad Connors was charged with 2 counts of child rape against a little girl in his own family, the charges were dropped. The prosecuting attorneys have said 2 things. They've said they still believe they have probable cause to arrest him and charge him, but they also say that they're not going to because they feel that the evidence in the beginning of the investigation wasn't handled properly. So that's a very bizarre doublespeak kind of answer. So the question I'm asking is, what is Cowlitz County covering up around this youth detention contract where they had a pedophile who was overseeing the youth detention center for a very long time, for years? The other thing is that I've been investigating someone that I thought in my family was trying to steal my identity by that other fake Cynthia Vogel. Well, it turns out the Cynthia Vogel that is working supposedly on the East Coast as a therapist works for a man who is a U.S. Marshal. I also, during the ICE Cowlitz County Detention Center contract, I was also asking, what are so many people with Latino last names doing in the Columbia County Jail in Oregon, right across the river from Cowlitz County? Because Washington and Oregon are both sanctuary states. And I was like, this is weird. There's way disproportionate amount of Latino names in the Columbia County Jail for the population. And it became obvious they were all there on U.S. Marshal holds. So I started suspecting that the U.S. Marshals were collaborating with DHS to get around the sanctuary state laws. And I started asking questions about that, but at the time I was just one person. So I focused more on the detention contract, and we couldn't ever really find out a lot about the U.S. Marshal system and whether they were complicit in working for ICE. Well, now it's clear. All of the links are in this description box. They've definitely been in a relationship with DHS. So that would explain why they're involved in creating a fake Cynthia Vogel profile, because they're doing all this work to discredit me preemptively so that I sound crazy before I could ever even make these accusations. And they sent a pedophile into my family about 2 years ago, and I've talked about all of this on my channel. It's all back in my videos. A pedophile came into a loved one's life in my family and completely alienated her from the rest of us, me included. This pedophile was defended by this same little group of attorneys that know Andrea Burkhart. He was also, his case is identical to a case that was covered and tried in the U.S. Military courts. And Andre Vargas, the pedophile that came into my life, was charged in Pierce County. Pierce County, Tacoma, there's a whole bunch of military families there. So I think Andre was actually in the military and tried both in a military court and in Superior Court in Pierce County. The military court record doesn't show the name Andre Vargas. It shows the name Wilson. But the trial details are identical. I have Andre Vargas's full trial transcript. I don't know how to share that here because it's a lot of documentation and I paid for it all. I'm very willing to share it, and I'm looking for an investigative reporter to share this stuff with, because ICE and the federal government and police around here that don't and that like and support ICE, they don't like what I'm doing. So and it's not just me, I'm sure it's other activists. So they've started this entire operation to preemptively discredit me, make me look crazy, make me sound crazy. It's one of the first things my family member said to me when I started trying to bring this to her, to give her an opportunity to talk to me about it before I went live about it on my channel. That's the first thing she pulled out. You're losing it. She knows, I think, but I'm not going to blast her and shame her here, because his crimes are not her shame. Her shame is that she went along with it and threw me under the bus. But these are the tactics that ICE and the federal government are using. None of this is slanderous. All of this is public information that you can access through all of these links. And so I'm saying that Andrea Burkhart, Angus Lee, Nielsen, Broman, and Koch, the Cowlitz County commissioners, potentially, some Cowlitz County judges, possibly, some Lewis County judges, and possibly even some Clark County judges, they're all complicit in covering this up. And I think it's Epstein level shit. Because they sent a pedophile into my life, I think they're afraid of what is going to come out about the Cowlitz County youth detention contract for the entire time, and not just for immigrant youth, but for other youth that were from Cowlitz and Columbia counties that may at one time or another have been detained in juvie in Cowlitz County. I think there's a big cover-up potentially going on. So that's why I'm asking, why? Why wasn't Chad Connors charged? Why did Andre Vargas come into my family's life? Why did my family totally turn against me? Why did my family randomly recently say that they support everything about, or that I'm a good person except for my ICE work, right? I think that the ICE turned my family into ops against me. That's what I think is going on. And so now I'm sharing all of this because I think this merits an investigation. And I want there to be an investigation into Chad Connors, into the Cowlitz County youth contract, into the history of youth detention, and what people know. Former detainees as youth, former staff, right? I think it needs to all be investigated. And I think that there's a bunch of cops around here and ICE around here because there's so many white supremacist Nazis that they've all teamed up to discredit me. And they sent a bunch of ops into my life to turn my loved ones against me. That's how all of these people surveilling me know intimate details about my life, because they turn my family into ops. That's what ICE is doing at this point. And they're trying to preemptively discredit me by making me look insane. So now that that my live stream was so fucked up, even though there's been no reason for any of my live streams lately to be that fucked up, that one was. So now I'm doing an upload, and it's going to be right behind the live stream on my same playlist. None of this is slanderous. This is all in the public record. This is all publicly available to anyone who wants to investigate it. And I hope someone will help me investigate it, or that I can at least turn this over to more resourceful investigators who have more evidence, who have more information or access to information than I do, and more resources to investigate. I'm just by myself doing this alone while I'm being surveilled. So that'll do it. Thank you.